Welcome everyone to the second episode of Neo Reality Rights. Now, okay, we already covered a little bit about Emperor Eric, who at the time would be known as Lord Eric. Now let's get to another character that was actually considered to be one of the main characters at one point, Ahsoka Tano. Now, originally, like I said, she was supposed to be one of the main characters in the story, one of the main protagonists at least. Well, it's hard to really say who's the main protagonist, who's the antagonist. Like I said, I try to go for a more complex route and try to show that there are good guys on the bad side and bad guys on the good side. So it muddies the water on that. So Ahsoka Tano is set to have a big, huge role in the in Book 2 and in the series, Book 3 as well. I haven't planned what's going to happen after Book 3. For her at least. And I also wanted to pitch that, okay, before Star Wars was bought by Disney to like about a month or so, I wanted to establish the connection between the daughter and Ahsoka, since the daughter sacrificed her life, and where she actually meets the Universalist. That wouldn't happen until Book 3. And I'll talk about the Universalist at a later date. So Ahsoka has... okay, she actually appears in a lot of the earlier chapters. I've currently have written 6 outlines for the first 6 chapters. I'm still working on the 6th chapter outline, but right now she's appeared in almost every chapter so far, except for 5. So, yeah. She might get mentioned, but still, she's appeared in almost every chapter except 1 so far. And she's also having conflicting issues with Lux Bonteri, her love interest, since she doesn't want to feel like she's trying to replace Stella, that girl that Lux had something with for like 3 episodes in Star Wars The Clone Wars. And also she has conflicting feelings since she's a Jedi, but since she wants to pursue these emotions, yeah, she can't because Lux's heart belongs to someone else, or so she thinks. And she's just all conflicted on this, and it's just eating away at her sometimes. So she doesn't leave the Jedi Order because the events of what happened in the Wrong Jedi arc never happens, including like by the time the Clone Wars joins the Great Universal War, it's not, Darth Maul has not taken over Mandalore yet. So Mandalore has not been conquered by Darth Maul's Shadow Collective, so Duchess Satine's still alive. So you got that indication where the timeline is regarding Star Wars The Clone Wars, since I'm putting in multiple Star Wars eras. Now this most likely will be the Legends Ahsoka, since I'm not a fan of the new Disney canon so far. But there might be some new Disney canon elements, since there are some good ideas, but I just overall don't like it. Like, I like the outfit she gets in Star Wars Rebels. She might get that, but that might happen in a way later story, like years after the Great Universal War, and probably after the Infection Crisis, which is to take place after another series of stories, or at least a series of storylines, but I'll talk about that in a future Ahsoka video. Now, one of the main key components I wanted to give Ahsoka, like, I didn't want to just scrap her entirely. Like, at one point, before I became such a huge fan of her, I actually planned to kill her off. Yeah, she gets killed off, and like, okay, remember how Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin had this intense feud, and it culminated at No Way Out back in 2001? Well, before that, Survivor Series of 2000, Triple H is trapped in a car. Stone Cold goes ahead, drops the car with a tractor, or I think. Well, I'm trying to remember what it was, but and he just crashes Triple H while he's still inside the car, in storyline at least. Except Ahsoka would have died if she was trapped in there, and there'd be no way to break her out, since Eric would make certain she's restrained and make sure to add insult to injury. He broadcasts this. That was actually one plan at one point, but ultimately I scrapped that because I started really liking Ahsoka more, especially when Season 5 happened. Those Jedi bastards. And ultimately, it culminated with this Year of Truth storyline. Emperor Lord Eric is attempting to recruit Ahsoka, and eventually he believes he breaks her in order to get her to join, and she joins up with them. She helps them around for a couple of months, and then when it culminates with the attack on Coruscant, or at least the Jedi Temple, Ahsoka betrays Eric and actually injures him critically, causing the True faction to retreat. And Ahsoka is heralded by a hero to the Jedi, though there is some distrust because she didn't tell anyone about her plan. Though Ahsoka had to make a compromising idea. She had to really invoke her actual emotions about the Jedi's corruption and whatnot in order to convince everyone in the truth that she was on their side, including Eric. Because here's the thing, Ahsoka and Eric are friends. Because Eric's exile years, as I explained, he actually met up with Ahsoka and they became like brother and sister to an extent. Not as much as Anakin and Ahsoka, because their bond was master and apprentice, and yet they acted like brother and sister from time to time. Or at least Anakin looks at her like a daughter. So I ultimately decided to go ahead and make Ahsoka one of the main characters of the storyline, and it culminates in a Hell in a Cell match between Ahsoka and Lord Eric, and it's supposed to be emotionally gripping because you're supposed to care a fact that this friendship is pretty much dead now, since this is the attempt to sever the bond between them. And then for a while after the Your True storyline, I didn't know where else to take Ahsoka. Like, I still had plans to do the daughter connection, but that wouldn't happen until book 3. So I decided to let her take a break for a while from all this. I decided to give her a break at least for a little bit in 2016. And then she comes back during a build-up between Anakin Solo, yes, that Anakin Solo from Star Wars Legends, and Lord Eric for a Hell in a Cell match, where she is basically the Shawn Michaels to the Triple H and Undertaker feud of this portion. Yeah. And yeah, this is I'm capping a lot of WWE, but then afterwards she goes back to then the wars restarted and they fight, and I might have her lead an attack on something. I don't know what yet, but Ahsoka does have some missions, and eventually in 2015, a lot of her storylines are supposed to be finished, except for several ones, like the old overall war, her issues with Lux, and her issues with Eric for a while, but ultimately it's supposed to eventually culminate again during 2018 when Ahsoka faces Eric again with Anakin Solo on her side, when he's possessed by the Mask of Hate, which I'll talk about in a future video episode. And this ultimately leads to Ahsoka and Anakin Solo being left behind on Coruscant during the fall, and then she and Anakin Solo starts the resistance movement in Book 3 to try and take out the Empire from Coruscant, and that fails miserably. Yeah. I'm just some cruel, sick bastard on that. Like, yeah, like, I'm trying to really give into this grim future here going on. So, yeah. Anyways, Ahsoka would get captured, but she manages to escape, and then she manages to get off-world. And also, I was originally going to kill off Lux Bonteria at one point, where he gets shot in the head by accident, where everyone assumes he dies on the space station when it gets destroyed, but really the Empire captured him and then used him and manipulated Ahsoka or someone else to accidentally take the shot on him, and he dies. So basically I ripped out Black Ops 2 when you decide Mason's fate, I think. I believe that was his name. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I played Call of Duty Black Ops 2. So one other plan was to have Ahsoka go ahead and, let's see, I'm trying to remember. It's been so long. Yeah, I have a hard time remembering some old plans I had come up with and cut out from the story. But it is supposed to reveal more tension between her and the Jedi, especially Mace Windu. And during the Year Truth storyline, Ahsoka actually starts to further lose faith in the Jedi, especially with the knowledge of the future that Eric reveals regarding how Mace Windu just deems it's her great trial, what she went through in the Wrong Jedi storyline in the Clone Wars series. You bastard. Yeah, I'm still pissed off on that. And eventually she does leave the Jedi Order. Barriss still betrays Ahsoka, but not in the way you would expect in terms of the bombing or the attempts to get her framed. That doesn't happen. So Ahsoka walks away, Anakin walks away, they excommunicate themselves from the Jedi Order, or at least the old Jedi Order. They might join up with the new Jedi Order afterwards, since, you know, Luke's also in the story. I'll talk about him as well. And another idea was for her to go ahead, like I said, meet the Universalists. And one person, and David Davis from fanfiction.net, I told him about this idea. He suggested that she could join them, but I don't think that's going to happen. Mostly because Ahsoka feels like she still needs to protect the innocent, and the Universalists are just people who just maintain balance in the multiverse. But there is some incoming revelations regarding her, and between her, the multiverse, and how Eric managed to get away with everything, which I'll reveal when I talk about the Universalists. So yeah, and there are plans for before the Nexus War, whose Nexus I'll talk about later. I think I mentioned him in the first episode when I was talking about Emperor Eric. But Ahsoka is also penned to also be the final opponent to Emperor Eric in a wrestling match. And I'll talk about Emperor Eric and what happens to him after the Great Universal War, because, ooh boy, that's going to be a doozy. And there's a lot of other stuff I want to talk about, but right now I want to keep that hidden for a bit. And also, like I said, this series has a lot of ideas that are subject to change at my discretion, because I'm writing this story. It's going to be a long one, and I still haven't come up with a quote main title. I just call it Book 1, Book 2, Book 3, Book 4, Book 5, and whatnot, etc., etc. But yeah, it's going to be a long ride here. And like I said, this is just the first part of an Ahsoka video section, so you'll see the Roman numeral on there. But I really like talking about my fanfiction ideas, my concepts, and what I plan to do in my stories. It's kind of entertaining. It allows me to also keep this all together and try to remember all this in case I forget. So, let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it for now. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate, and stay tuned for more.